God, I hope my mic isn't muted. Because if it was, that would. Hi, welcome to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio. We have a very full show. I'm getting messages. Yes, I can't do anything right now. Don't bother me. I'm on the internet. Today we're going to talk about everything on my news agenda. We've got Fukushima in the news. We've got... going to go over CNN's headlines just to see what they're not covering. We've got a marriage story from India. I try to explain to people that marriage and relationships are... marriage is essentially an economic agreement. Love doesn't really need a contract. Love is its own contract. And you certainly don't need to make one with the state to have a love relationship. There was some other stuff in the news that I wanted to get to. Elon Musk has a... Oh, don't tell me I lost it. Oh, come on. Elon Musk has a... Come on. Factory opening. All right, I have too many web pages open. Hugo Gernsback. Don't need to read about him. Who else was I reading about? H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, click, click. How big is the Earth? Click, click. Here it is. Elon Musk, EcoWatch. Does Elon Musk Tesla Model S signal the beginning of the end for oil? Let's start with weight loss. A lot of you want to know how to lose weight. I can tell you. I know you didn't know that I had this skill, but I do. I can tell you how to lose weight. I'm not kidding. I'm not being sardonic, sarcastic, or subliminal. Or I'm not doing subterfuge. I'm just telling you the truth. If you want to lose weight, I can tell you how. I'm not kidding. All right, do you have a pen? Okay, take it, jam it into your throat. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Here's how to lose weight. Everybody makes it very difficult. The first thing you have to do is you have to give things up. You have to give up processed food. If you eat processed food, you'll have terrible, terrible cravings. Terrible, terrible, terrible cravings. Insane cravings. Cravings that you can't understand. They won't make any sense to you. You'll have chemicals flying through your body that really shouldn't be there. You'll have too much salt. It'll be salt without any extra minerals. You'll just be a mess. So you'll have cravings. The salt will make you tight and make you more yang and make you, that's a yin and yang term, it'll make you need things to make you feel a little bit better, a little bit looser. So you'll reach for ice cream or beer or soda or anything else, or fruit. And so you'll think, well, I had a bag of chips, now I'll have some fruit. And you end up just eating and eating. Your stomach feels sloshy and groggy. You don't know why. So you have to give up processed food. And by processed, I mean anything that comes in like a colorful container that has more than 2 or 3 ingredients. You know, if it says something plus a little salt, anything deep fried you have to get rid of. If you want to lose weight, you have to get rid of deep fried. I want to make this as easy on your internal organs as possible. Now, the most important things about trying to lose weight is looking at the times of the day that you're eating. Don't eat first thing in the morning. Fill your stomach with water. Put liquid through your intestine and your bowel. Flush out anything that was there the day before. You have some aloe vera. Have some non-caloric, non-sugary stuff. Usually, I just use water. You can take water with a little apple cider vinegar in it. Whatever. Do that for a little while. Have a tea in the morning. I don't recommend coffee because it just burns your villi, the lining of the intestine. Giving up coffee is another thing. I would mix coffee with black tea. I would mix it with cocoa and just, have less rather than none, because if you're addicted to coffee, you're truly addicted and it's really hard to quit. So I would just mix it down, mix it in with other things. So don't eat first thing in the morning, even if you're hungry. Do a little morning fast. If you're really famished, eat something at 10. If you, like me, don't really want to eat at 11, eat at 12, eat lunch. Have a piece of fruit in the morning. If you're really, if your stomach's gnawing on you, have some raw food. Just, keep that stomach light. Now have a good lunch. And by good lunch, I mean something cooked and something raw. Eat sitting down, don't eat standing up, don't eat in a car. Again, don't eat processed food, don't eat fast food, don't eat with incredibly loud music blaring, don't disrupt your whole body and system. Eat a good lunch, eat until you're relatively full, sit there, take enough time. Now, all of this is, of course, impossible in America. Everything I'm saying is impossible in America, so you can't do it here. I don't know where you're going to do it. And if you have kids, just rule it out. Just don't even worry about what I'm saying. But If you have a little bit of extra free time and you can, put this aside and you can shut out the loud noise, even at Chipotle, the so-called organic restaurant, which, whatever it is, and it's trying to be non-GMO, but the music in there is incredibly loud and it's really just upsets your stomach. You don't even realize it. You can't see what you're eating. You can't look at any of it. You can't internalize any of it. You're not really there. You're not there with the people you're talking to. You're yelling over the food and the guy next to you is yelling over the food. It's just a drag. I understand the fun of eating street food in big cities, but, whatever. All right, so you have your good lunch. Have enough fat. This is something everybody makes a mistake of doing. Now, you haven't stuffed yourself in the morning. You haven't had sugar, Barbara's cereal or Cocoa Puffs or anything like that. You're not putting sugar in yourself. You're not filling yourself with fiber in the morning so that you just end up groggy and unable to digest by lunch. You're really just fasting in the morning. This is how to lose weight. I'm telling you how to lose weight. You can thank me later. I'll write the book in a year. I don't want to write a how to lose weight book right now. Have enough fat at lunch. You don't want a giant volume of no-calorie food. You want a medium volume of relatively high-calorie food. Medium, small volume of high, because you don't want to distend your stomach. If you think I'm going to eat low cal, I'm just going to eat low calorie. You'll just keep stuffing down all this low calorie stuff. Your stomach you'll dilute your stomach acid. You'll dilute the bile. You won't be able to do much. You won't be able to digest, and you'll just feel weak. You'll actually feel very weak. If you make the mistake of eating giant salads without any salt, you're going to feel wan or wane, as Bruce Wayne says. You're going to feel tired. Sorry, as Batman says. You're going to feel tired. You need hot food. You need cooked food. You need salty food. That tightens your body. It creates tension in your cells. You need that to be able to function. So have that. I think the Asians eat better than anybody else. They figured it out. You soak everything in a salty broth. That broth might have a little bit of fish bones as a stock, so you're getting some extra nutrients, a little radiation, some seaweed. Some other bits of this animal or that animal. If you want to be vegetarian about it, perfectly reasonable. You can have a dashi sauce without fish. You can have a soy sauce, with genetically modified soy and some Roundup in there. Anyway, then you pour in the noodles, the vegetables, the spices, and you want oil. So you want sesame oil, or if you're eating Mediterranean, you want olive oil, and if you're eating Indian, you want, what did I already say, sesame? What is the other oil? What are the other oils I recommend? Coconut for Southeast Asia. Avocado oil, I guess. I would just use avocados, although they're not, they're hard to get in some places in some seasons. You can use raw nuts that you soak. You can use roasted nuts, even though they have some altered fats, but, they're good energy sources. You just want fat with your food. If you're a big animal food eater, I don't recommend being a big animal food eater, but you can eat some egg yolk. You can eat some fat of a mammal or bird that if you want a piece of meat with that, just make sure you get enough fat. Why? Because that's going to keep you going all day. Fat is about 9 calories per, oh God, I can't remember. It's not gram. Is it gram? I can't remember. It might be molecule. I can't remember. Carbohydrates are 4 for the same amount. So you get more calories in fat than you do in carbohydrates. Now, all the people who are trying to get skinny say, oh, okay, I'll never eat fat. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire. Here's what's going to happen. You're not going to eat fat, and your body's going to crave fat. Why? Because your body needs fat to work. It needs fat to build and coat myelin, your nervous system, to build the myelin sheaths. It needs it for your brain. It needs it for many, many, many functions. So you have to eat fat. Worst mistake I ever made in my life was being on low-fat diets, because you end up like a zombie in front of the refrigerator at 11, fighting yourself with a spoon, like shaking in your hand, because you just want, your body's like, you're gonna get some fat now, and you're gonna get out of my way. And there you are, like digging into whatever, the cottage cheese, the ice cream, whatever. You just want fat. You don't even know why. Biting into cookie dough. Not that I ever bit into cookie dough, but hey, it's something people actually do. It's disgusting, but I did dig into the ice cream. That was my favorite thing to do. I would go exploring in the ice cream for, whatever's in there. Peanut butter, Oreos, whatever. So you got to eat good fats. Good fats are cold pressed. They're not refined. They're healthy. They make you feel good. Very easy. Then you go on with your day. You probably need a nap in the afternoon. The craziest thing about America is that we work through this fatigue period by poisoning our adrenal glands. We pour coffee or whatever into ourselves and poison our adrenal glands instead of just taking a 30 or 40-minute nap in the afternoon. If you take a 30 or 45, minute nap in the afternoon, you essentially sleep. You drift for 10, you sleep for 25, and you come up for the last 10, and you feel like it's a new day. You're not hyperproducing cortisol, you're not hyperproducing adrenaline, you just are relaxed. Again, you people without children won't know what I'm talking about. The idea of a nap, I'm sure, is something you forgot a long time ago with young children. Just doesn't work in the American workplace. Henry Ford never heard of a nap, but of course, Heil Hitler, he really loved what the Germans were up to as well. We're not machines, and if we are machines, we're machines that need naps and plenty of sleep. Yes, you can quote me on that. I think it's a good quote. Have a nap in the afternoon. Crawl under your desk. Have a nap. I had to work in an office for 10 days recently just to do some reading and research for some people, and I would crawl under the desk when I was exhausted. Instead of trying to prop myself up with caffeine, I would take 10 or 15 minutes under the desk with whatever they had, Hustler or Penthouse. I wasn't picky. I was published in Hustler, come to think of it, which is a strange honor, dishonor. I don't know. I don't know how to think about that. It was a big deal. It was fun. And the editor was really, really good. She was really nice. She moved on to like serious news, but they were trying to do serious news at that time. I don't know if they are anymore. But I took the nap and I got up and I felt better and I was able to work with clear eyes instead of that dragging feeling you get going through your body. All right, now you had a really good lunch, a really high calorie lunch, and I think that lunch should actually be the most calorific meal of the day. I think they had too much at breakfast, so they skipped lunch. So now they just got home famished, and they're shoving everything into their mouth before they sit down. So they eat bread. You shove bread into your mouth, which doesn't do anything except it absorbs all your stomach acid. You should put water in at the beginning of a meal, by the way, to open up your alimentary canal. You should be putting water through yourself. You're a natural system. You're an ecosystem. You got to put water through there, open everything up, dilate everything, get everything ready. It's like sex. You warm up. You warm up. You always have to warm up. Don't just jump in. Don't shove hard things in. Don't shove crusty bread in at the beginning of a meal. I don't know why anybody would do that. It essentially stops digestion. And then you can't really enjoy what you have next because your stomach starts to hurt, it balls up around you're soaking all your own liquids into the bread to digest it. That dehydrates you. So then you start reaching for cold water, which again dilutes your stomach acid. So don't do that. Start with soup. If you're an American, start with soup. If you're Asian, if you're Southeast Asian, your whole meal is pretty much wet. And so, the Asians figured it out. We need hot, salty, savory, spicy food that pours down our gullets and we can digest. By cooking things, we expand their matrix, their molecular, we break apart molecules so we have better access to the bits and pieces that we're eating. That's why cooked food is good. Raw food is digests sort of quickly because it's not really digestible and it just plows through your system and empties you out, but it doesn't give you a ton of energy unless it's full of fat. But if you just try to live on fat alone, you go into some form of ketosis, the same way if you just try to live on protein alone, you go into ketosis, which is not a healthy place to be. You got to have carbohydrates, very, very important. No matter what anybody says, your body is built to digest carbohydrates. Simple sugar is different. White flour has no nutritional value. But complex carbohydrates are what people all around the world eat for sustenance and nutrition. You crave them because you build energy out of them most easily. You form them into ATPs, adenosine triphosphates. You need them to be able to make energy to fund your own electrical cycle. You need protein to build. You need fat also to power. Fat is a great power source, but you do need the carbohydrates, and you make glycogen out of it and store that in your liver. Fat is an energy source that you pad around your organs in your body. It's an insulating source. Americans have plenty of that. We're well insulated. So eat a smaller dinner than you do lunch. Eat a lighter dinner than you do lunch. Don't make dinner the big meal that everybody sits down at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, stuffing big pieces of fried meat into yourself. You go to bed at 10 and you don't sleep. Acid is pouring up your throat. You then take pills to block your stomach acid. Sound familiar, everybody? Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. This is where we live. So eat a lighter dinner. Have some pasta. Have some couscous. Have a light quinoa salad or something. Have some lentils. Don't make it the heavy meal. Have some coconut milk. Something that soothes you. If you want some dessert, have some stevia or... I tried xylitol. I got to be honest. Don't like it. It's just too chemically. But a little stevia, a little pinch of honey, a little bit of stevia, something like that, and some coconut milk or whatever it is that you eat, cream milk. I'm not a milk fan. I don't like the musky smell of it. It just doesn't do much, does the opposite for me. Don't like it. Comes out of a cow's, doesn't it come out of a cow's butthole? Isn't that where milk comes? Well, whatever. I don't know where it comes from. So I've told you how to lose weight. Now, you don't think I did, but I did. And if you actually followed that, you'd lose weight. Or you'd normalize your weight, or however you want to look at it. So don't eat it first thing in the morning. Hydrate. Have salty, brothy food go through you. What else? Eat food that's flexible, and if it's cooked, make it wet. Don't eat burnt things and dry, crusty things that your body has to suck up all its own water to process. Don't eat that. It tightens your back. Makes you have other cravings later to eat things to break up those sort of energy clusters. At least in macrobiotics, we look at that as a yang energy, as a very tight energy for having been baked, that you then later have to break up by drinking booze or sugar or vinegar or something like that. It's just eat in the middle. Now, the real key to losing weight, no matter what you eat during the day, is not to eat too early and not to eat too late. That's the key. And this is the part that actually requires the most discipline, because you can get yourself to eat healthy food. You can get yourself to eat everything that I've been describing. You really can. You might, where's the ketchup? Well, here's the ketchup. Have the non-GMO, whatever it's called. Have the organic ketchup. You can do that. But the thing that you're going to have trouble with is the thing that everybody has trouble with, which is it feels good to eat. It's something on par with sex. It stimulates pleasure centers in the mouth and the brain. And it's, that's why people get addicted to food. That's why there's a food industry. I mean, if food were just something you put in yourself to run yourself, we'd be selling little, green-brown pellets of nutrition and popping them in a little drawer that opened in our abdomen. But food feels good. It stimulates major pleasure centers. And, there's a reason there's such a thing as a foodie. It's because it just makes you feel so good. And if you're lonely, and everybody's lonely sometimes, or if you're stressed, and everybody's stressed a lot of the time, the foods that are processed are built to feed those opiate receptors. They're built to get you to produce that dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. So that sugary chocolate bar, not even good cocoa, but that terrible 90% sugar, 50% sugar, 40% hydrogenated something fat, and then 10% is a little bit of cocoa that fell off the back of a truck somewhere. It's no good. It's 20 years old. You eat it, you stuff it in your mouth. The sugar makes you produce a little serotonin. The cocoa that's in there makes you produce a little bit of whatever you produce from eating that, something similar to oxytocin. So you feel better. Well, you might as well get the raw cocoa and mix that in with a little bit of fruit, or you could put it in savory food, so you're actually having frankly, a more organic cocoa experience. But the hard thing you're going to have time with is at the end of the meal, because eating feels good. Eating feels good, so you're going to be eating, and then you're going to put down your fork, and you're going to say, "Shit, my life's kind of miserable. I'm a stress case. Life doesn't make sense, but man, this chocolate mousse makes sense. Get in my mouth, get in my belly." And you're going to say, "Just one more bite." All right, have one more bite, but don't have 10 more bites. And if you're having 10 more bites, there's a reason for it, and you're going to have to think about that. Or maybe you don't have to think about it. Maybe you just have to stop yourself from having 10 more bites and go, "Look, my stomach's pretty full. I had a lot of fat." That's why you have to eat enough fat, so you don't get hungry later. And I'm not saying eat like just big chunks of fat, but eat enough fat. You'll figure it out. If you eat too much fat, you'll start to gain weight. No matter, you will. Eat up too much fat, you'll gain fat. You will. It'll be right there on your side. It'll be just transferred from your mouth right to your side or your butt or wherever you gain your fat. For me, it's my side, lower side. But if you eat enough, not too much, you'll be satisfied while you're eating rather than having terrible cravings while you're eating, because fat is the satisfaction molecule. I don't know what's going through your head. Besides the sex molecule, whatever molecule that is, sexonium, fat is the satisfying molecule. So eat enough of that. Now you have to stop eating at a certain time. And here's the trick. If you go to bed at 10, and God love you, it's very impressive that you do that. I don't even understand how your body clock works. You really got to stop eating at about 7:30 or 8, at least. You got to eat a pretty early dinner. You need a couple hours for the stuff to process through your system, unless you're like my friend Robert Scott Bell, who, I don't know. The guy can't gain weight. He's one of those guys. One of those guys who can eat anything. He's got a good build. He's not too skinny, but he just can't gain weight. So he doesn't overeat either. But some people are like that. You remember those guys in high school that are tall and skinny as straws, and their Adam's apple is sticking out, and they just keep piling down everything. Like the Phelps guy, Michael Phelps. And eventually they hit 40-something, and their legs are skinny, and then their stomach just seems to have a new zip code on it. It's just gained all of this volume, and it's like an interstellar object. You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show. I'm telling you how to lose weight. It was unexpected. I thought I would do 10 minutes on it. It's going to be the first half of the show. In the second half of the show, we're going to go into Fukushimaville. I hate covering the Fukushima news, but it's there. And I'm going to ask the question if Elon Musk's Giga factory is really going to save us. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's a delusional thing. And maybe I'll talk a little about our delusional species. The end of this is you've got to stop eating a few hours before bedtime. And no matter when you go to bed, you really have to stop eating by 10. I don't care if you go to bed at 4 in the morning. You got to stop eating at 10. Or your body will look at that as emergency food. Here's what your body does with food that you eat after 9:30 or 10. Uh-oh. It's not really daylight. It's not an hour to eat, so we must be storing this. This is emergency food. I'm going to have to store this somewhere. I'm going to have to increase my muscle mass. I'm going to have to make big, thick muscles in my legs and store it as energy there. I'm going to have to store it as fat in the gluteal maximizing area. I'm going to have to punch it down there. I'm going to have to store as much as I can down there. Store it around the upper arms. Let me stuff some of the fat into there. Where else can I stuff it? If you eat late at night, your body feels like you're in an emergency. You're in an emergency. Maybe that's why people eat so late at night, because they're under so much stress that life is an emergency. They are under constant stress, and they're stress eating. They need to produce some form of remedial chemical to make themselves feel better. So they stuff themselves late at night, and then you numb yourself out. You sleep the sleep of the damned. This halfway place between sleep and acid indigestion. Sorry, if we lose connectivity on this radio show, it's due to weather, but hopefully we'll stay put. And that's it. Don't eat too early. Do not eat too late. Do not eat processed food. Be hydrated. Make sure your food is not burnt and dried and desiccated. Eat local. Eat organic. You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV and on Truth Frequency Radio. You can buy my books on Amazon.com. You can buy Official Stories, because Official Stories exist to protect officials. You can learn about the lies of our time. You can learn about how the government takes your mind and makes it into something else by telling you stories, narratives. And it is narratives that we're going to talk about. as we come into the second half hour of the show. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I got a text from a friend saying there was a bit of an emergency. I had a friend pop in and out of a hospital uh, due to actually a misdiagnosis, a wrong prescription, and yeah, that seems to be getting better. So that was on my mind. I'm sorry if I sound a little distracted. I'll talk about that another time once it's more fully resolved. But needless to say, if you take a medication and you start to have terrible, terrible side effects, you're not getting sicker because of any natural cause. You're getting sick because the doctors are idiots and gave you the wrong medication, or because that's the way the world is these days. So try to avoid antibiotics. Try to avoid antibiotics. Make your friends worry about you. That's all. They'll just make your friends worry, and they'll hurt your tum-tum. Let's talk about this delusional species that we are. We are such a delusional species that we believe stories that were told to us that appeared in books thousands of years ago. We don't know if they're true. We actually know that they're not true. They're stories. We know we can't verify them, but we believe them. We believe stories that are put to us by government agencies that we know we don't usually trust. But when it comes to the thing that we trust them on, we'll certainly trust them. That's true for liberals. Liberals certainly don't trust the government when it comes to things like, going to war, Vietnam, all these other things. But when it comes to injecting children with squalene, everybody's squalene deficient, right? Everybody's aluminum deficient. They'll trust them because we're a storytelling species. I can't emphasize this point enough, and I won't stop emphasizing it for a long time. We're a storytelling species. When you sit down with your Bible, your Quran, your Bhagavad Gita, your Emperor's Classic, your Confucian Guide to Right Living, even your story of Gautama or the Eightfold Path or whatever story you're reading about Buddhism, even the Tibetan Book of the Dead, these are stories. These are narratives. And however powerful they might be, and they are, some of them, are clearly, depending on where you're coming from, to Christians, a lot of what the government says about science is clearly crap. Christians have their own narrative. They don't really need the government's narrative. They have their own. It's a nonsensical narrative. It's illogical, but they have their own narrative. Therefore, they're more able to be critical of the government's narrative. Interesting how that works. We have to have a narrative. So you have to say, well, Liam, what's your narrative? Well, I'll tell you. This is the Liam Scheff Show. This is my narrative. You're listening on UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio. My narrative is essentially official stories. My narrative is that official stories exist to protect officials. My narrative is that we're a storytelling species. That's my worldview. My worldview is that what we think is encased in a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We force it to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We force emotional conflict. We force emotional drama because of unresolved emotional stuff, because of stuff on the side that we're not actually capable of dealing with. So we always find scapegoats. The Bible's about scapegoating. We go kill these people because we want your land. And instead, we're going to write it down as though there was a guy called Yahweh, and he said that we could do it. We could take your land, and it's biblically designated ours, so the murder isn't really murder because it's biblically okay for the Old Testament Hebrews. Well, we abhor at this thought. We recoil at this thought. Let's go look at Iraq. Let's go look at the depleted uranium in Iraq. Well, we told ourselves a story. We told ourselves a story that on 9/11 something very terrible and mysterious happened, that a couple buildings that were filled with asbestos that needed to be decommissioned, essentially, went away in 13 seconds, 11 to 13 seconds. And the narrative is that there was a guy, and sure, he was funded by America, Donald Rumsfeld, Ronald Reagan, Charlie Wilson, to fight the Russians, who were then our enemies because they had oil, and so did we, and they had a little more. And we had Saudi oil, and they didn't, not as much. Complicated? Yeah, so that's why you need a narrative. And the narrative is that the Russians were the bad guys and we were the good guys. And we beat them But the reality is that we beat them by funding what we now consider the worst terrorist groups in the world, who are our friends because they were the enemy of our enemies, or we made them the enemy of our complicated. Yeah, that's why we need simple narratives. We beat the bad guys during the Cold War, and now we're the good guys. And then on 9/11, the bad guys that were the good guys because we funded them wanted our freedom or something, so they blew up a couple of buildings that we needed to decommission anyway because they were full of asbestos that would have cost trillions of dollars, so they just went away in 13 seconds. Not that anybody would use any kind of small nuclear bomb or bunker buster bomb or even paint on nanothermite. I mean, nobody would ever do anything like that, even though that exists. I mean, people do that, but only in warfare, and they would never do it in downtown Lower Manhattan to get rid of buildings that we needed because the enemies of freedom who hated our freedom, who used to be our friends. That's why we need the simple narrative. Reality is bloody complicated. Reality in relationships is very complicated. It's very complicated, and people make it black and white. If you love me, you'll do this forever and ever and ever. Amen. Reality is that people change, and people go through passages, and there's a book called Passages by Gail Sheehy, and people are radically different from decade to decade in their lives. We have unfolding personalities that take us on voyages that we never expected, and we don't, it's difficult, and we have to communicate. So instead of having that communication front and center, we bind each other with promises and lies, and I'll always feel this way, and I'll always do this. Instead of just saying, I really love you, and I will always endeavor to communicate with you. Wow. That would be a wonderful thing, wouldn't it? I love you, and I will always endeavor to communicate with you. Geez. Now, how does the state benefit from that? Because you have to remember, as a narrative animal, as a creature absolutely hypnotizable by stories. Oh, we're not? How many of you, raise your hands, are going to see the new Star Wars movies? I can't see your hands. How many of you are going to see the new Star Wars movie, even though the last 3 Star Wars movies were like somebody taking a giant diarrhea elephant crap all over memories from your childhood? How many of you are still going to see the new Star Wars movies? Why? Because they look pretty good. They look like the Star Wars movies should have looked, because they had a chance to really, royally, deeply, profoundly, here's my one F word for this show, fuck them up. The last show was just entirely Fs. It was like nonstop Fs, and then I realized that I didn't realize it, but that was my one. But yeah, the last 3 Star Wars movies as narratives were bloody awful. They didn't have enough grit to hang a story on. There wasn't enough that resonated. Now we're learning something about storytelling. Stories have to have some resonance. They have to feel relatable. Maybe that's why the Bible never made sense to me. It never felt relatable. Maybe that's why the Greek myths made sense to me. They felt relatable. I understood the Greek myths. Jealous gods fighting with each other. It's like jealous parents fighting with each other. It's like jealous people fighting with each other. But one guy in charge of everything? I never saw that. I never saw one guy in charge of everything. I saw, life is oligarchy and aristocracy. Even dictatorships are many guys sucking on the ego of the one guy so that they can actually pull the strings. I mean, just ask Himmler, ask Goebbels, ask all the underlings, ask Mengele. There were a lot of people benefiting from Adolf Hitler's absolute bloody insanity. We're a storytelling species. Hitler came to power by telling a story of the rebirth of the German state as something out of Valhalla, as something that would ascend the heights, as cities so large, marble encrusted, garish, and beautiful that nobody could ever imagine them except Albert Speer, who, the architect who Hitler had do his work for him. I mean, one of the great revelations you can have about Germany is reading Albert Speer's books, to understand that these are still pencil pushers, totally enraptured by the narrative, by the dream. And it is the dream that carries us forward. It makes us delusional. It makes us stupid. It makes us make terrible decisions. Let's make it personal. In relationships, I can often be anxiety-ridden. Why? Because I'm an intellectual. I have a hyperactive brain. I'm a researcher. I'm constantly thinking. So, in a relationship, I tend towards a kind of literalism. And that's not always great, because people don't speak literally most of the time. But as a researcher, I have to, logic dictates that I be able to take things down to the nub, that I be able to unscrew the screws all the way. But in a relationship, people are tired and they say things absent-mindedly, and you have to be patient. Like, did you mean to call me a total dickhead? No, I'm sorry, I was stressed. All right. It kind of hurts my feelings. All right, sorry. I said I was sorry. So I mean, my major struggle is getting beyond my internal narrative, which is absolute literalism. Because I have, you'll forgive me for saying this, I have elements in my brain that are probably kind of a genius brain, and then there are elements in my brain that are absolutely freaking stupid, like really profoundly, deeply retarded. I've got both of those things in me. I mean, it's true. Ask anybody who knows me really well. Like, how did you figure that out? And then you still jumped off the cliff with a bungee cord not totally wrapped around your ankle. Well, I thought it would work. We all have these bits of genius and bits of absolute profound stupidity. We're all built that way. And I have a incredibly highly active intuitive and really an ability to assemble material from different disciplines. But, interpersonally, I'm as dumb as the next guy. I make terrible, terrible decisions. I've fallen in love with just people who didn't have my best interests in mind, or as I've gotten older, of course, I've learned to adjust that, and I've only allowed myself to care about people who really cared about me. But I can tell you that my early relationships, I didn't pay enough attention to that. Now I do. So I guess we can learn if we try. But my narrative, was romantic and impulsive, especially when I was in my 20s. And boy, did I learn a lesson there. Boy, did I learn a lesson. We're a narrative species. Oh, the lesson was don't be incredibly impulsive in relationships. That's one of the reasons I don't really believe in this lifelong marriage concept. I think that you can love people for a lifetime, but the state getting involved, the state telling you, or the church, I mean, this absolutely horridly, offensively dishonest, 2,000 something, 2,500 years of superhero stories and plagiarism. I don't even begin how people I don't even begin to understand how people can't take this apart, but that's what it is. It's 2,500 years of plagiarism and superhero stories. And then to get this, that wants to manage you. This is what narratives are good for, by the way. Narratives are good for making you move in a particular direction. They're simple, they're effective, and we respond to them. 9/11 is the war on terror. Who's not going to be against terror? Let's fight a war against it. A little logic would dictate that a war on terror is itself terror. You can't use terror to fight terror. It's just more terror. So it's not going to work. But logic has no place in some people's narrative, especially when they feel emotionally engaged and self-satisfyingly so. The self-righteous engagement of ego is one of the more powerful motivators in the human mind. It's something I've had to ferret out of myself and move out of myself as time goes by. You have to keep moving this concept out. This, oh, my ego's hurt, I'm going to act out. Boy, I was good at that in my 20s because I had to repress it through my teens. Because growing up was so hard with the people I grew up. I never really got to just be childishly indulgent without being incredibly punished. So I think in my 20s I gave into it a little bit. It was always a mistake. But we all have to learn this. We all have to learn this. What narratives propel us? Well, we've got a couple narratives right now. One of the narratives that we're not talking about is that, well, sorry, one of the things that's not a narrative, because if it were, we'd have to talk about it, is that oil is a limited resource. That's not actually a narrative. That's a bit of detail that interrupts the going narrative, which is America's the greatest country on earth. We build things by being by funding the free market. We always build by funding the free market. Anything that gets in the way of the free market is getting in the way of America. And America is freedom, and freedom is the marketplace. Even though the marketplace is a bunch of sweaty guys from New Jersey driving across, going through the bridges and tunnels every day to the chimp cage in Lower Manhattan to, trade things in 5 to 15-minute increments without understanding the value of any of it, screaming louder and louder than the other person just to be able to give somebody that they don't know some number on a screen that they think that they want. That's how the world actually works. But it doesn't work. That's the narrative. The narrative is that's freedom. What I just described is freedom. That's how Americans see it. It's freedom. Explain that to me. Explain it. That is somehow freedom, is it? Not really. Because what we're trading are other people's lands, other people's goods, other people's property. OPP. That's what we're trading without even knowing it. You put a number on it, and the number goes up. The narrative is when the number goes up on the screen, we're winners. That's the Wolf of Wall Street narrative. The number went up on the screen. It doesn't matter what we did to get it there. We're winners. That's the American narrative. So, oil is a limited resource is a very ugly counter narrative. It happens to be based in, petrogeology. I mean, you can just go study oil fields and figure out that Spindletop in Texas is no longer gushing at 100,000 barrels a day. In fact, it's a covered, sunken hillside because they drained the oil. So oil is running low is a narrative that nobody wants to engage with, but it's a reality that undermines our fictional story. Now, some people know that energy runs low, and they built nuclear power plants. So we have this disaster called Fukushima. And if you want to read the Fukushima news, and God help you if you do, you can go to enenews.com, and I will read you the headlines. Nuclear waste overflowing into Pacific Ocean. The officials state it's impossible to stop this spill anytime soon. Torrential rainfall from approaching typhoons already are too much for the plant to handle. No, this is a 4-reactor nuclear meltdown. It's been going on since 2011, so 4.5 years. Let's go to the next headline. Mutated plants near Fukushima gain internet fame. Pic shows a center of daisies fused together, petals growing out of sides, ring-shaped flower with 4 stems. Plant abnormalities can be induced after only 24 hours of exposure to radioactive fallout. Well, it looks cute when it's a daisy, but imagine that's a human being. Imagine it's an animal with a double-sided head growing out of its head. Headline, document shows nuclear fuel burned at the bottom of containment vessel under Fukushima reactor. Officials, leakage we observed indicates melt-through by shell attack. This is a very big problem. Fuel debris in the PCV, I don't know what that is doing something bad. Let you look that up. If that sounds good to you, you can send me your reason why on the back of a $100 Federal Reserve note and send to Liam Scheff, care of Liam Scheff Productions, 6300 Pennsylvania Avenue, backdoor, mother-in-law apartment, Washington, D.C. U.S. scientists testing for radiation in dead whales has mysterious die-off in Pacific continues. Now 14 carcasses reported. Experts warn of death toll could still rise. Whales may have consumed something toxic, trying to find an explanation for this unusual event. One of the problems that human beings have is that they're able to compartmentalize information. One of the so-called problems that I have is that I don't. I synthesize. I don't compartmentalize. So I take in information, and this is why I get into trouble. I take information in from very, very disparate sources, from opposing sources, and from every source. If you're able to synthesize, not compartmentalize, you will understand the world better. But people will seem absolutely crazy to you. And you, to them, will seem like you don't make any sense, because why would you believe the things that you believe? I don't compartmentalize. If somebody says something awful to me, I don't say, oh, they're really a great person who said something awful to me. I say, this may not be the best person I've ever met. I just allow it to filter in to the big picture. You have to be careful when doing this, so you don't say everybody who says something bad is a bad person all the time. You have to be able to layer this. You have to be able to, how would I want to say this? You want to be able to grade this and be able to communicate with people and figure it out. But it's like the person who says, well, my husband only calls me a stupid whore once in a while. He's really a great guy when he's not drinking. Compartmentalization. Now, anybody standing on the outside would say, yeah, he's not a great guy. And he either needs help, or you guys need a therapist, or you need to work things out. Or, my wife, she's a great old gal, and she does drink a lot, and then she does tend to spend all of the money on stuff from the Home Shopping Network, but she's a great, great gal. She's not actually that great. I'm going to break it to you. You're compartmentalizing. She's not that great. You could work on that. She's not that great. Plutonium levels 10 million times higher than normal in water below the Fukushima reactors. Plutonium hit record high off of the coast in 2014. I assume that's still rising, has been transported relatively long distances. Every sample taken from rivers flowing to the Pacific had plutonium-239, 240, 241, and 242 from the plant. Every river flowing into the Pacific tested in, I guess, Japan. I didn't read the whole article, so you'd have to check that. Has radioactive material from the Fukushima problem. NOAA, that's something oceanic, something alliance. Young herring suddenly disappear from Pacific. Suddenly disappear. Oh, what do you think they're hiding? Do you think they're in the movie theater? No one can find them. It's because they're dead. This is an enigma. Something's happened. Yeah, they're dead. Millions of missing salmon raising alarms. Yeah, they're dead. Very odd, strange, most different year ever. It looks really bad, says fishermen who are catching only huge numbers of jellyfish, which don't mind certain levels of toxicity. Unprecedented emergency statewide closures enacted in the Pacific Northwest. Gee, that's on the Pacific Ocean where the water comes from. Oh yeah, Fukushima. We never had to do anything like this. It's very alarming as massive die-offs are linked to a disease outbreak. Nearly 100% infection rate in some areas. Fish have rotting gills and distended bellies. The NOAA, that whatever it is, something oceanic, something alliance, says it's a head scratcher. I want another F word just to put it at the beginning of the word you for the NOAA. So we see by not compartmentalizing and by synthesizing, if we allow ourselves, we can see that by not compartmentalizing and not buying into the standard narrative, that there may be, possibly, likely, a connection between extremely radioactive material, which disrupts every form of life on Earth and has half-lives of tens to hundreds to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of years, might be doing damage in the Pacific Ocean. Not that much of a head scratcher. I realize there are other problems. I realize the oceans are either warmer or cooler. I have a lot. I know I'm not trying to get up your skirt with this. I just don't quite understand. The stuff from the global warming crowd always confuses me a little. I'm not saying da 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 da. I just da 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 da, and they always change. And this one's warmer and that one's cooler. So if that's playing a factor, then it is. And if sequestering CO2 in the ocean is da 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 da, then it is too. I'm a little more concerned about radiation. Why? Because it's going to kill everybody, or at least it could. I'm not excited about that. So we've done the Fukushima headlines. There is no real answer. And my friends who I love dearly, who post things about remediating with mushrooms and hemp, yeah, it's not really gonna do it. Let's do it. Let's do an experiment. You know what? Let me be positive. Let's just do it. Let's just be positive. Although I try to be realistic, but let's do it. Let's plant hemp and mushrooms everywhere. My question is, if you remediate a certain amount and it keeps coming and coming and coming, you understand. It's the sorcerer's apprentice problem, right? You get it, right? Because you cut the thing and the rooms keep splitting and growing, splitting and growing, splitting and growing. You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV. We have a 10-minute run-out groove. I had something I wanted to get to. Let's see. I got something I wanted to get to. Jim Carrey's dating life? Yeah. Tell me we're a monogamous species. Robots. Oh, Elon Musk. Speaking of robots. No, not him. It's cars. Elon Musk is a bright guy. He's a rich boy. He's been very successful. He's intent on changing the way we do things. You can only be impressed. He's building a gigafactory. It's not yet assembled. It's moved from a few thousand to another couple thousand acres, and so it's going to be the largest factory in the world, at least once it's built on 24 million square feet of land. It's going to have a giant solar array on top that will power probably many of its robots. They say all of them. I have my doubts. They're going to have a wind farm next door that's going to do the rest. Okay, so that's what they're going to do. Wind farm and solar, wind farm and solar. And they'll be able to power their robots. Robots! Hey, Billy West. Shout out. want to build batteries for cars. They want everybody to have electric cars. There are 250 million, that's the given number, cars and trucks in the United States. 26 million, that's one of the given numbers of commercial trucks. 2.4 million long-haul giant Class 6 and 8 tractor trailers. Batteries for all of them will require more lithium than exists in the world. That seems to be a problem. So it seems we're not going to replace all of the cars in the world or even the United States with lithium batteries. Well, I guess we could use lead batteries. There's plenty of lead, but not enough lead to even get close to the amount of electricity that we would need to put into cars and store in giant heavy metal batteries. Also, getting the lead and, yeah, the lithium requires intensively polluting, incredibly toxic, oil intensive, coal intensive, refinery intensive, laboratory intensive machining, processing, refining. The expense involved has yet to be calculated, but it's big. We also use diesel for things that we can't use batteries for. We use gas and gas products to make our food grow, and we're not going to be able to run every pump, and especially the natural gas that we use for its nitrogen to make ammonia. We spray that on our Monsanto fields, Monsanto land fields. So we're not going to be able to do that with lithium batteries. And what about this grid that doesn't exist to power everybody's lithium batteries that don't exist? What about this superconductive, low loss grid that just isn't there? We have a crumbling grid. Our grid across the board, from roads to bridges to dams to electrical, got something like a D in a national. I don't remember who did it, and I'm sorry, but it was a pretty decent study with no severe bias. They just wanted to see how well the United States was holding up, how good the bridges were. A D across the board, dams, bridges, roads. So we're going to have cars that require us to have a perfect grid, a new grid, really, an expanded grid that can carry much more electricity than the current grid, so that we can all have cars. Let me ask you a question. You ever heard of a thing called a train? Tram, train, streetcar? Right, because no, it's a crazy idea. But what you can do is you can actually put those in towns. You put those right in towns. I know, it's a weird idea. And everybody could ride them. I know. And they could run during daylight hours, and then a couple during the late night. And then, they shut off so people can go to sleep, because you don't want to run things all night. I mean, we don't want to live in a 24-hour world. Oh, I know you do, but we do want to sleep sometimes. And nighttime's as good a time as any. It is dark, after all, and circadian rhythm, all that stuff, all that ancient stuff. I know you don't want to get hung up on the ancient world, but what about trains, Elon? What about trains? I'd like Elon Musk if he were supporting a national tram, streetcar, revitalize the train sector, because that's where we're headed. No matter what Elon Musk says, the narrative that we're all going to have cars, the narrative that the future is bright, that it's 90 minutes from New York to Paris undersea by rail, just machines to make big decisions, programmed by fellows with compassion and vision. I love the song, but it's ironic for a reason. In the last couple of minutes, I'm going to go to an article about India, if I can find it. I have too many browser windows open. Click, 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 click. This is the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio. If you like anything you've heard, please support independent journalism by going to my webpage and putting a little money in the PayPal link that you see there on the About page or on the front page on the right. Please do. It helps, keeps me in short pants, keeps the knees mended when they get holes, keeps the pasta in the pot. Or you can just buy my book, Official Stories, or The Truth About Love, or the upcoming Oil Alarm, I think September, or Official Stories 2, coming in April of 2016. Some Indian men are marrying multiple wives to help beat drought. Now, I've been talking about love and relationships for a long time, for a while in the show. And my central argument is this: marriage is essentially an economic arrangement that binds two people to the church or state and prevents them from interacting really in a more communal sense with their environment and having more organic long-term relationships that aren't so bound by fundamentalisms. Marriage benefits the people who put you into your little two-person house with your 1, 2, 3 kids, whatever you got, your mortgage, your car or cars, and your giant grocery bills because you're trying to eat healthily, so you're going to the Whole Foods, spending $200 something a week, $250, $300 a week on stuff that comes in containers that's processed anyway. So you might as well shop at Walmart and try to buy the organic things. You might as well just try to go to farmers markets, even though they charge a lot. You know what you might as well do? You might as well grow food in your backyard. Dengan Mall is a typical. This is from CNN. CNN. Dengan Mall is a typical village in India's western Maharashtra state with a population of around 500 people. It's a tiny place where everybody knows everyone. We were there to meet Sakarim Bhagat. Bhagat's modest house is made of mud, supported by a few wooden beams, but it's one of the bigger huts in the neighborhood, and Bhagat's family is one of the largest. A middle-aged lady wearing a colorful sari and a bright smile comes out, greets us, introduces herself as Tuki, while 2 other women peep out from inside the house to see who's come. While Tuki chants with us, the other ladies, Sakri and Bagi, hover around. The hierarchy is clear. Tuti is Sakram Bhagat's first wife, and the other have joined later. Now, why have they done this? Because of food, water, and scarcity issues. Dagon Mall is located in a region which routinely increases drought-like conditions. In the summer months, the heat is so severe that the wells run dry and the cattle die. There's no water connection to this village. It's a remote, hilly area. The only solution is to walk to a well or a river carrying vessels filled with water. Neither are close by. It can take up to 12 hours to go there and return home. So what's the value here? The value is that marriage is an economic arrangement, and they've realized that having a couple wives increases the number of people who can get water, do stuff around the house. I doubt that these are, truly deeply romantic relationships, but I'm sure they're friendly, and it's keeping everybody alive. In our system, we have the